Hey there, welcome to the Miss Charm recap for 2023. My name is Dani Walker. Thanks for joining me today, and we're gonna jump right into this one. First thing I noticed was the B-roll opening the show. I thought that was beautiful. I think that they did a really great job capturing content of all the contestants. Love this, and I think it's so smart at the beginning of an organization because you can later use this in your social media and in promotions down the road. I really appreciated how the host entered the show. This reminded me a lot of the movie Girls Just Want to Have Fun with Sarah Jessica Parker. There was a host in that movie and she had the wildest entrances, and that's what she was known for. And so I really love this entrance. Also, all the hosts were very well dressed. They look fantastic, and I always feel like that's just a reflection of your overall production, so I like that a lot. Another thing I really like that they did that I thought was very clever is that they split the contestants in groups for the opening number. So essentially half of the ladies would be just standing and posing, and then the other half would be dancing, and the ones that were dancing were in the front, and then they would swap. And I think this is smart for two reasons. First of all, what's really the point of dancing in the back when nobody can see you? And second of all, you're going to be able to get the most out of your choreography, so you can teach a really small piece of choreography and then just repeat that piece of choreography when you flip the groups of girls. So I was like, that is so smart, and it can save you a lot of time and hassle in rehearsals. I also really liked the opening number dresses. They were very simple. It's not something that we haven't seen. It's a sequins cocktail, but it did look great on stage, and I kind of feel like you can't go wrong with the sequins cocktail look for an opening number. And I thought that they also really well complemented the staging. I'll quickly share that life's been a little crazy for me in the past few months. I've had several deaths, and that's why I haven't been able to keep up with all of my recaps, but I appreciate you being here. And if you like content like this, if you want to support the channel, you can do so by hitting that subscribe button. That's a huge help. Also the notifications. And if you want even more content and access to exclusive episodes, then check out the memberships button, or you can always support the channel with the super thanks or by shopping in the merch store. So the next thing that I thought was really interesting is that they cut to a top 20. And I believe there were 38 contestants this year, so 38 to 20 isn't a really big cut for that small of a group. So that was kind of interesting. I kind of wish they would have just cut to a top 15. I also feel like there was too much filler after the announcement of the top 20. I've been in pageants where you basically have no time to change until the next cut, and that is just what it is in pageantry, and I feel like it's so important to keep the audience really engaged. So I thought that they talked a little bit too much. I did really like, however, though, they had a former Miss Spain and they had a former Miss Universe. Natalie was there, so that was really nice. Love seeing title holders on a judging panel. If you need any more title holders, or formers, I guess, on a panel, call me up. I would love to judge this pageant. So let's talk about the swimsuit competition. So it's been a little while since I have recapped the preliminary competition, which you can check out in another episode. So I kind of actually had to go back and get a little bit of a refresh. I really like their swimsuits though. They have very interesting necklines. I thought that was fun. The staging reminded me of Miss Universe 2015, I believe it was, Pia's year, right? When they had the waterfalls in the back. So that, I was like, okay, well, it looked great. I thought it looked great either way. Like, they had some really beautiful staging, especially for a first time international pageant that's led by Vietnamese ownership in Vietnam. They're doing a great job. Argentina. So I really liked her so much more in finals than I did in prelims. I liked her in prelims, I talked about this, but I wanted her hairstyle to change, and she did for finals. So she looked fantastic here. I think she had a really strong swimsuit performance. I just wish she hadn't have outstretched her arms at the end. I felt like that was something more like you would do for an opening introduction when you're introducing your country versus in a swimsuit competition. Brazil, oh my gosh, my note initially was like that opening face, like the expression that she made there was fantastic. She also had a really good walk down the stairs. The stairs can be a little bit challenging. Really great smile. I do wish that she would have just like held her final pose a little bit longer, but overall the performance was great. So I'm just being nitpicky as always. Colombia, the crowd loved her. Oh my goodness. So I liked her too. I really wish that she would have pulled the hair from behind the ears. Like I just didn't like it behind. I just wanted it I guess more voluminous and in front for her. I thought that the contour color though on her it just like wasn't matching the tone of her skin, so I think that could have been adjusted, but I do really appreciate her sincere happiness on stage. Costa Rica, stunning, great walk, strong final pose, just fantastic. Absolutely loved her. Dominican Republic, I love her little smile, and she kind of scrunches her nose a little bit. It's like her thing, I feel like, and I loved it. Strong walk, strong performance, posing. My note was like, she looks like a winner. There was nothing more that I really could have asked from her from this swimsuit performance. So at that point, she was just leading the pack for me. Indonesia, really great walk. I just felt like I wanted some different facials from her at the end of the runway. Philippines. Okay, this performance right here is what I was expecting from her at the preliminary competition. This is exactly where I thought she would go. Now, I know in the Philippines that Shamsi has this saying, and she says you need to know when to peak. So maybe she was taking on that, like she was applying that to her strategy. I don't know, but I was very happy with her swimsuit performance. Great facials here, great walk, and the energy. Like I really felt her energy, and I loved that. Poland made it. So she was on my edge for prelims, and I was really, really happy to see her advance for finals. I think that she did a great job, and she also did such a good job of kind of like suspending her poses for a second. It just had a great effect on stage. Russia was so beautiful, and she was such a nice surprise. I feel like she had such a strong opening facially. Like she was really able to connect with the camera and with the judges, and I didn't know the next cut of the show, but I could have seen her moving on because she was just captivating. Nice surprise. South Africa, I was waiting for this performance. So for me, she did not disappoint for swim. This is exactly where I felt that she needed to be. She once again just looked so stunning on stage and had great facial expression changes. So I loved her. She was definitely moving on for me. She's been one of my faves, stayed a favorite. Ukraine, great opening facially here, like such good facial engagement. I think that overall she did a great job. This was well executed, but I do think that the hair and makeup needed to be adjusted. I feel like her makeup, it just like wasn't making her features pop and stand out on stage. And I tell girls this all the time. Your normal makeup is different from your pageant and your stage makeup. It's not just necessarily about going heavier, but it's about the way that you're applying the makeup. That's what I learned. Like the application makes all the difference. Venezuela, very, very, typical Venezuelan performance, just absolutely fantastic. Loved her. I do wish, however, that she would have slowed down just a hair. I felt like her performance went by so quickly. I don't know, maybe it was just that I liked it so much that I was like, give me more. One thing that struck me is that they spoke to the contestants backstage, and we've seen this at the Miss Universe pageant before. Yes, but here's the distinction. At this pageant, the judges could see that backstage shot. And so Philippines, and I believe it was Mexico, were the ones speaking to a backstage host, and they were able to share a lot more about themselves. And I feel like that can be an advantage. Like that can be something that sways the judges. Now, as much as we see that happens at the Miss Universe pageant, when I've attended Miss Universe, when they've showed those backstage shots of the contestants, yes, we can typically see them inside of the venue. Like typically there's a screen and it's projected, but the audio usually isn't there. So I feel like it's one thing to see a contestant more and more, like I don't think it hurts, but I feel like it's another to really be able to tune in and listen to their answers. I feel like that's an unfair advantage. So I hope that, in the future that you can do backstage interviews, but don't allow that to sway the judges in any way. Like I wouldn't give judges access to that footage. Because one of the things the Philippines said in there when they were asking her a question, she said something really cute. She says, well, I'm not only ready for the next round, I'm ready for the crown. And I was like, okay, I love that. But I think but you see what I mean? Like I love it. And if I was a judge, I would be like, oh my gosh, I love her even more. And other contestants didn't get that opportunity. Other thing to note, when they showed B-roll footage of the rehearsals, this is my note for contestants considering competing there in the future. It was interesting. The outfits that they wore in rehearsals, I would say overall there was a mix, but they leaned towards more casual. So they wore a lot of just like cute little athletic sets versus at Miss Universe by comparison. At Miss Universe, the contestants are really dressing up. Like at all of the rehearsals, there's a lot of press. The ladies are posting their outfits every single day, and they're not just athletic wear outfits. Typically they're full on well-styled outfits, and you'll see a huge range there at Miss Universe. So I don't know if that's going to change moving forward in the future, but I always think that it's important that a contestant understands like what type of attire to wear at rehearsal, especially if they're not given very much direction. So now they cut it down to a top 10 for gown. So let's talk about that top 10. Argentina, oh my goodness, so elegant. I loved this gown on her. I was like, when she walked out. Also, the thing around the arms reminds me of the wraps that used to come with prom dresses. Comment if you know what I'm talking about. I had dresses that I would wear to little school dances in like 8th grade or like high school, and the dresses always came with this little wrap, and we would just drape it around our arms when we would go to these dances, or like around our necks. So it reminded me of that. But I love her performance. It was so elegant. Right here, she knocked it out of the park for me. One of my favorites. Brazil, she is just so stunning. Also interesting, did you notice this? The color of her gown is very similar to the color of Miss Brazil's gown at Miss Universe in 2020, and it's more of a rare color. We don't see it very much, so I was like, oh, interesting to see that, just like the commonalities there. Now, I also really like, though, the diagonal fringe. How often do we see that? Not very often. That was a really cool feature of her gown. She did a phenomenal job with this performance. I just wish, though, that she didn't do an open leg pose at the end with that slit. I just don't feel like it really did much for the gown there, but overall she had an amazing performance and she's stunning. Costa Rica, really loved this gown. Oh my gosh, I just love the idea of that draped beading and you're just like dripping in stones. I love that idea. The gown was beautiful on her. She was also still one of my favorites. Absolutely love her. She's just so stunning, so stunning. She would have gotten a high score from me. And her ending facial expression changes were just like chef's kiss. Dominican Republic, I loved her finals gown change. It was a stunning gown, but the colors of the gown were really rare and unique. We don't really see a lot of oranges and yellows, and especially not together for many pageants, but she looked incredible. I think she did a fantastic job removing her, I never know what to call those, like a cape? Still, is it still a cape? Is it like a robe? I don't know, but I loved her. She was one of my absolute favorites, still one of my highest scores here. Indonesia, I really wish that the cups in her dress would have matched her skin tone a little bit more. They just really stood out. They were so much lighter than she is that I was like, my eyes were immediately drawn to the bust of the dress, and I feel like the eyes should be drawn to your face. But she had a great performance. I just wish that she softened up her final facial expression. Philippines, so I think she had a wonderful performance, but this gown with the mixture of the styling, for me, it was a little bit off. I feel like the gown was kind of eating her. I feel like there should have been something changed with this dress. Either remove the red undercolor in the sleeves, make the sleeves truly sheer and a little bit more form-fitted, or maybe drop the neckline slightly a little bit more, or maybe narrow the shoulders a little bit. Like, there was something about this dress that I feel like it was just so much on her frame. So I do wish I would have seen something just like a little bit different for that. Also, like that particular bun hairstyle, it does remind me of like 2012. So not saying she shouldn't wear it up, and I totally get the decision for doing so because there was so much going on with that gown, but I almost wish like it just would have been a different up hairstyle, a different style of bun. South Africa, I was so happy for this gown change. Now, do I think that she could have had an even better gown? Yes, for this competition, I do. I also didn't love that when she came out that the lighting changed and basically she was drowned in just a sea of blue on stage. I don't think that helped her. But regardless, the fit of the gown was amazing, and what's more important was her performance. So I loved her, loved the hairstyle change. I think she did such a fantastic job. Was a favorite, still a favorite. Venezuela had quite a unique style of gown. I really like this gown. It's also just reminds me of a very Venezuelan gown. They do a lot of whites, and no wonder, it looked beautiful on stage. And what's more important though was her performance, and I loved her performance. She was one of my top scores for this. She's very elegant, and I feel like Venezuela just does so well in the evening gown competition. I think that they're born in heels, honestly. Now we went from a top 10 to a top 6. And our top 6 were Venezuela, Colombia, Brazil, Philippines, South Africa, and Indonesia. When they did not announce Dominican Republic, I was like, what just happened? For me, she was so obvious the entire time. Like, for me, I was like, I would be putting her at least in a top 2. You know, you never know what's gonna happen when somebody answers on stage. But I was absolutely shocked about her. And then Costa Rica, I thought also could have been up in that top 6. You know, like different judges, different day type of thing. I wouldn't have been surprised to see her there. But Dominican Republic, like, I need to know what happened. I'm over here like, is this a tabulation error? Like, I literally could not believe. Absolute shock. Now the ladies had 1 minute to answer their onstage question, and I was like, that is a long time. That's a little bit too long for me. I don't know. I mean, maybe give them 45 seconds, but that was a lot. So let's get into these questions. Venezuela went first, and they asked her the question in English, and then she answered in Spanish, and then there was a translator. So let me just say this. I can't even with this. So they asked her, what action have you done to influence and inspire others? And this is what the translator said that she said. Thank you for the question. The most action I have done to society is with my experience of education and love for young people. I think that's important for the next generation, for the love. It's important. There was something like that the translator said. My Spanish is quite limited, but I was listening and I was like, absolutely not. There's no way that is what she just said. There's no way. So I had a little bit of an understanding. I went and I let Google translate it, which is also rough, but I just want you to listen to this comparison here. According to Google Translate, she talked about her greatest experience in life and her greatest passions of her love for art, music, and much more. She talked about being an example for those who live with depression, and the greater actions that contribute to society is part of great change with love, effort, and dedication, because she believes that a successful woman achieves many great things. She said she can do this if she works with love, because a job without love is slavery. I don't think that was the accurate translation exactly. Google was terrible with this. The translator, I just feel like, was even more inaccurate. I feel so bad for Venezuela. And the moment after she said her question, they had a shot of Miss Spain talking to Natalie, former Miss Universe. Literally, Natalie looks over to her as if like, was that right? And Miss Spain looks at her and she goes, no. Like, no. I don't think Miss Spain was saying no as in like, that was terrible. I think she was literally saying like, that is not what she said at all, according to the translator. That was wild. That may have been the least accurate translation I've ever heard at a pageant. Crazy. Now Colombia, they asked her, can you tell us about a successful woman that has inspired you here tonight? And she says, a woman that inspired me is Shakira, a Colombian artist. She's been successful for her discipline and perseverance and intelligence. She inspired me because she's from Colombia and she gets her dreams, works a lot, and that's what I want to do. I want to be Shakira. To be me, I want to be Colombia, and I want to be the world. So I thought that it was an okay answer. It was pretty safe. Brazil, I feel like her question was literally like a winning question. Like, before we even talk about the answer, that's a question that can set you up to win. She was asked, if you become Miss Charm, what would you do to connect and promote different cultures of the world? She said, first, I'd like to share that culture is my passion. As a commercial pilot, that is my #1 interest. Having come from a family that is well-traveled and having lived all over the world, across about 5 countries and having traveled many more, I consider that the way to promote culture is to unite people. As I have said before, there is a universal language we must engage to learn and break the language barrier. I see that this is one of the most difficult things when it comes to promoting culture. So that would be my way of helping not only culture, but education and the youth, and breaking those barriers to engage everyone. Now, I feel like she did a good job here, and when she spoke, she sounded fantastic. For me, it was really the delivery and not as much the answer, because if you listen to her answer, she talked about, language being a barrier to promoting culture, and I'm just kind of like, well, how would you actually then help language barriers at the end of the day? I feel like if you're saying that the language barrier is the issue, then your answer with that kind of needs to follow up with you teaching people other languages. I feel like that correlates a bit more. But essentially she just said, I'm going to unite people and all of that. Like I said, I think that she just could have been a little bit more direct in some way for answering this question, but it is a tricky question. So she sounded fantastic when she was saying it. I think it came down to delivery. Philippines was asked, what's your definition of Miss Charm? And she said, Miss Charm is someone who looks beyond the difficulties in life and works hard to overcome them. I grew up being told that I would never amount to anything because I belonged to a poor neighborhood, a poor family, and had no parents. But I've worked so hard for the past 7 years to become a Miss Philippines. And you know for sure that I've worked hard to become your next Miss Charm 2023. Thank you so much. So I think she had a really solid answer here, all right? And I think it definitely contributed to her placement. And we'll talk more about that at the end though. South Africa, these questions were challenging, I have to say. What's your solution to maintain and develop sustainable tourism? Does anyone really have a solution? So she said, first, I'd like to believe that sustainable tourism is the fact that all of us are trying to find ways to rather balance our nature but decrease the negativity that comes with tourism. Secondly, we all are diversity, such as different cultures. Therefore, we need to be able to sustain so that when you have get-togethers like this, that it's becoming in unison, because each and everyone sitting here has something to share, and if we all combine our cultures, it'd definitely be something to embrace. The crowd went crazy for this. South African queens have such a way with words, I will say, but once again, I don't know if she necessarily gave a true solution for how, what is your solution for maintaining and developing sustainable tourism? Indonesia, they asked her, nowadays the world is more open than ever, so what is your solution for acculturation without the concept of cultural appropriation? These questions, I feel like you would ask this at Miss America. Oh my gosh. Good luck, ladies, with this pageant. She says, I work as a content creator that promotes culture and tourism. And most of the time, the one way to actually get out of cultural appropriation is to give credit to the culture that doesn't belong to us. I know that there is admiration behind different cultures that we want to give appreciation for, but giving credit is always one solution. So I think she did a fantastic job answering this question, honestly, but it's just such a difficult question, and even like the wording of the question. So well done, Indonesia. All right, so now the top 3 were revealed in a way that I've never seen before. They didn't just announce them, they actually had an artist on stage doing a live painting, so to speak, with essentially like glue. And then once the painting was done, he would throw something onto the painting, like some powder thing or sequence, I don't know, you would throw it and it would stick, and you would see the face of the contestant that was about to be announced. So I more so wish that when they did the final announcement, like the final look of everybody in the top 6, that he could have been actively painting at that point when the ladies were on stage. Then for the announcement, instead of us waiting there, just sitting and waiting, because the hosts were even trying to figure out, how do I fill time while this guy is painting on stage? He still went pretty quickly, but regardless, it was tough. This was a cool final question though for the top 3. They said, every morning when you wake up, what do you think is the meaning of your life? What are you living for? Very cool question, I like it. Moving into the top 3 were Indonesia, Philippines, and Brazil. I honestly also could have seen a swap there and had South Africa in a top 3. Indonesia said, I live to be a blessing to others. There's something I'm reminded of each and every day. I work as someone who's dedicated my life to teaching skills and languages to children in the orphanage, because I believe that by becoming parents to them, to guide them, I can leave a legacy for them for a better future. And that legacy is something I want to continue if I am the next Miss Charm, to lift the history to become the first Miss Charm ever. Philippines said, the meaning to life is to be able to help one another. It is all about putting the community before oneself. I've learned this growing up as an orphan, and I certainly learned this being with all of the Vietnamese tonight. I think that the purpose of life is to be able to help one another. In the struggles of the youth, I see myself and I relate to them. And I hope that with my success here tonight, that they will see themselves in me and believe in themselves more because of me. Thank you so much. So this answer right here reminded me so much of Zosie's answer when she won Miss Universe. She talked about hoping that other young women who look like her will see themselves in her tonight. Now, I think that the difference and the reason why Zosie's answer was winning and effective is because of Zosie's tone of voice. So when Philippines was answering, and granted, I know it's loud in these venues, she was saying, I believe the meaning of life is to help one another. It is all about putting the community first. You know, she was really projecting on stage. Versus Zosie in her delivery, if you listen to it, she was really kind of leveling with you, right? Like, she wasn't just shouting into the audience, she was speaking with you. She looked at you, and her tone of voice when she says, you know, like, I believe I can be this representation for these young women. She dropped her pitch of her voice, and it just felt a lot more sincere in the delivery, and sometimes that is really what counts. Now, Brazil had a very unique answer, and I feel like that's what just like clinched it for her. So she said, if I had to sum it up in one word, freedom. Freedom being able to travel where you want, do what you want, be who you want, do what you want, and be the woman you are meant to be, to follow your dreams. You were able to achieve the knowledge, not only academically, but the knowledge of culture, the knowledge of emotional intelligence to be able to reach your full potential. And I thought it was really smart that she talked about the knowledge of culture, because this pageant says that their mission is to educate others about culture. So I was like, that was such a smart thing to put in that answer. It was subtle, but it was smart. And like I said, I think that the difference between her and Philippines was merely the delivery. Watch it back for yourself. You know, Brazil had more of that approach that Zoe had in her delivery of just like, you know, like a little bit more quiet, slow. Her tone, her pitch was down. She just sounded like she was being very real with you. So the results here was that Indonesia was second runner-up, first runner-up was Philippines, and then Brazil was the new queen. So it's been quite a year for Brazil. They also won Grand International as well. So congratulations to her and to the country. Amazing accomplishments here. This is exciting. You've had the first ever Miss Charm. I'm really excited to continue just learning about this organization, following along for her year. I want to see what's going to be happening. It's exciting because it's just like a different opportunity for contestants. It's another alternative to Miss Universe or to Miss Grand or Miss Supra. It's just really cool because every organization offers something different. So I really love that so much. I'm very excited. I'm very excited for all the ladies. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. If this is something that you enjoyed and if you want to see more, I would say first check out these other episodes that I've recently created. You can watch the prelims recap as well if you missed it. But thank you so much. And if there's something else that you want to see on the channel, please feel free to add that in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. I do pay attention to all those requests. I appreciate you. Hopefully you've subscribed and that you'll be back for a lot more.